Think back to a time before the scroll. When we were children, we had this incredible natural ability to get lost in a single thing for hours. Do you remember sitting on the floor with a sketchbook, or spread out with a set of building blocks, or even just staring at the pattern in a rug? Back then, we didn't have notification telling us to look elsewhere. We didn't have the anxiety of missing out. We were just there. So, hello everyone. How are you all? I hope you all are doing good. This is me, and I welcome you all to my channel. Let's read and write. Psychologists call this unconscious flow. As children, we didn't have to try to focus. We were simply immersed. We would spend an entire afternoon trying to understand how a toy worked, or reading the back of a food packet over and over again, absorbed in the colors and text. We would just we would just turn back the newspaper and we would see all the news that were written in that. We were not uh, minding the news written on those papers. We were just reading them for the sake of reading, because we had so much focus that time in our mind that we had a lot of time to spend on those mundane things. As we grew up, we traded that unbroken time for fragmented time. We were told to be faster, to be to be more connected, to multitask, and somewhere along the way, we lost that childhood superpower of deep immersion. Can you remember when you had some project from the school and you were just all excited and deeply focused on how to complete it, how to do it, how to enhance it so that you can be the best in the classroom? That feeling, that is lost somehow now. Sitting here today with the physical newspaper feels like a return to that childhood. It's quiet, it's tactile, the smell of the ink and the texture of the paper. It's a sensory experience that anchors you to the present moment, much like those long afternoons from our past. We aren't just reading the news right now, we are reclaiming our ability to stay still. We are teaching our adult brain how to remember what our childhood brains already knew, that the most interesting thing in the world only reveal themselves when you give them your full, undivided attention. That is what we are lacking today. So, as we move into the deeper theories of focus today, I want you to tap into that nostalgia. Don't look at this as a task or a chore for your career or your studies. Look at it as a return to that quiet, curious child who had all the time in the world to understand just one thing. So, today I will be talking about you in parts, and I from the past few days, I had something in my mind that I wanted to share with everyone. Like I have been coming up with this idea of sharing these things that I was thinking. So the first part is the information action ratio. Let's talk about a theory from the Neil Postman called the information action ratio. In the digital age, we are hit with a massive amount of information that we can do absolutely nothing about. This creates a sense of anxiety. of course. When you sit with a physical newspaper, the experience is difficult. I know today we all have that option of soft copy like we do in the digital devices. But for me personally, I always have chosen the hard copy over the soft copy. So, sorry for the interruption. Let's talk about what we were saying. So, I was saying when you sit with a physical newspaper, the experience is different. It is linear, it has a beginning and an end. It forces you to engage with a signal over noise. Signal is information that changes your long term understanding of the world, like constitutional shift, economic theories, or historical context. Noise is just temporary excitement. To reach a higher level of intellectual discipline, you must learn to stop the noise and feel the signal as yourself. Uh, we should simply ask ourselves, is what I am consuming right now going to matter in a year? If the answer is no, then we are consuming noise. Absolutely. Now let's move on to our second part, the cognitive load and mental models. As I can scan these columns, my brain is managing what scientists call cognitive load. Our working memory is small. It can only hold a few pieces of new data at once. To truly learn, we have to move that data into our long term memory by building mental models. Can you remember when we used to study in our primary or the secondary classes, secondary standards, the concept, the things, the topics that we had read in those days, we still have some traces of those knowledge today. That is the way we are missing today. Think of a mental model as a shortcut for your brain. For example, the circle of competence. This theory suggests that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know exactly where your knowledge ends and where your ignorance begins. By reading deeply about specific subjects like international relations or laws, you aren't just memorizing fact, you are building a lattice in your mind. Every new headline then has a place to hang. It's no longer a random fact, it's a piece of a larger puzzle. Let's be honest. What happens today? We come through some news articles and we see some YouTube videos on some important subjects. We just watch them thinking that we are going to remember it for our examination day. But that doesn't work. We tend to forget it and we don't even remember that we had to remember something. So this is a loop. Let's talk about the third part, the Lindy effect and the power of slow. There is a fascinating concept called the Lindy effect. It states that for non perishable things like ideas or books, the future life expectancy is proportional to their current age. This is why the newspaper, a format hundreds of years old, still holds weight. Like, of course, uh, how many of you would like to read a book in a PDF form? Of course, you would buy the physical copy of it and then you would read it because it will give you more enjoyment. Like you won't feel that enjoyment reading those books, like whatever your interest may be, in the digital format. Of course, in a world obsessed with real time update, there is a massive advantage in being slow. Slow reading allows for metacognition. I know that I have been talking about reading newspaper in a very hurried manner, like uh, just read what matter to you. But but I really think that it is somehow affecting our ability, um, our brain's structural ability to process the information. Sometimes I just allow myself to read it like however I want to read it. In a world obsessed with real time update, there is a massive advantage in being slow. Slow reading allows for metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking. When we read a slow, long form article, our brain has the space to argue with the author, to question the logic, and to find flaws in the argument. This is where true intelligence is found. It's not it's not in the speed of reading, but in the quality of the thousands of the thoughts that happens between the sentences. And then we move on to our last part, and that is the flow state as a sanctuary. We are approaching the end of this session. By now, if you have been focused, you might be entering a flow state. This is what psychologist Syntax Mihaly called optimal experience. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. I'm extremely sorry for that. It's a moment when the challenge of the material perfectly matches your ability to process it, and the outside world fades away. The state is a sanctuary in an era of constant noise. The ability to find silence in a crowded room or in a complicated text is our greatest asset. It's not just about exam or job or status. It is about the quality of our internal life. Discipline is not a punishment. It is the path to freedom. It's the freedom to choose what occupies our mind. But before I should leave this thing now, I wanted to share something more, and that is about the attention residue theory. It is also a thing that I came to know about in the recent days, and the concept is about like this concept comes from the professor Sophie Leroy. She discovered that when you switch from task A to task B, your brain doesn't move all at once. A residue of your attention stays stuck on the previous task. Imagine your focus is like a physical cord. Every time you glance at a notification while reading this paper, you aren't just glancing, you are snapping that cord. Even when you look back at the page, part of your brain is still processing that text or that alert. It takes nearly 20 minutes for that residue to clear. This is why quick checks are the enemy of deep thought. To truly understand a complex article, you must give your brain the grace of a clean, unbroken accord. There is one more thing that I want to talk about. the filter of the RAS, the reticular activating system. The RAS is a bundle of nerves in your brainstorm that acts as a gatekeeper. It detects what information gets through to our conscious mind and what gets ignored. Our brain is constantly being bombarded by millions of bits of data. The temperature of the room, the sound of the fan, the color on the wall. The RAS filters more of it out so you don't go mad. But here's the secret: you can program your filter. When you sit down with a specific intent like understanding the policy change, you are telling your RAS, this is important. Suddenly, the noise of the world fades and the signal on the page becomes bright. Focus isn't just about what you look at, it's about what your brain chooses to ignore. And the next part is a stolen focus versus a grown focus. The slow growth theory. The focus isn't a fixed talent, it is more like a forest. You can't build a forest in a day, but you can burn it down in an hour. Modern technology is designed to still our focus using bright light and variable reward. But the focus requires for a high level study or deep reading must be grown. It is slow, it's sometimes boring, but the boredom threshold is where the magic happens. Most people quit the moment they feel a hint of boredom. If you can push past that 5 minute mark of restlessness while reading, you reach a level of clarity that 99% of people will never experience because they reached for their phone too soon. And when we have touched the topic of phone, then let me talk about the biological hijacking that this technology has done today. The war for your attention. Have you ever noticed how, even when you are doing something you enjoy, your hands instinctively reaches for your phone? It's an almost it's an almost involuntary reflex. We call it addiction, but in the world of neuroscience, it's actually a perfectly functioning dopamine loop. Our phones are designed by the most brilliant minds in the world to exploit a very specific part of our evolution, our need for novelty. Thousands of years ago, noticing something new, a rustle in the grass or a change in the weather, was a survival skill. Today, the new thing is notification, a red dot, or a scroll. Every time you see one, your brain releases a tiny drop of dopamine. It's not a reward for learning, it's a reward for searching. And that is a trap. We are for becoming a society of searchers who have forgotten how to be finders. The problem isn't the phone itself, the problem is the cost of accessibility. Because the phone is always within reach, our brain never fully enters a state of resting focus. Even when it's face down on the table, a part of your subconscious is monitoring it. This is known as a brain drain. Research shows that the mere presence of a smartphone reduces our available cognitive capacity. Think about that for a second. Simply having the phone in the room makes you less intelligent at that moment. Now look at what we are doing right now. You are watching a video of someone reading a paper. There is no flashing light, no algorithmic jump. It's a static. It's boring by modern standards. But the boredom is actually the sound of your brain's default mode network kicking back into gear. We often mistake the need for our phones for a need for information, but usually we are just running away from the discomfort of being alone with our thought. We use the phone to numb the friction of life. But friction is where growth happens. When you struggle to understand a difficult article in a newspaper, the struggle is your brain growing. When you swipe away a difficult thought on a screen, your brain stays exactly as it was. To break the addiction, we don't need more willpower, we need more physical barrier. We need to reclaim analog sanctuaries, places or times in our day where the digital world simply cannot enter. This hour right now is one of those sanctuaries. By choosing to watch this slow, steady process, you are telling your nervous system that it is safe to slow down. You are teaching your eyes how to track a line of text again rather than just starting around for a blue link. The phone is a tool, but only if you are the one holding the handle. If that's the, if if it's the one pulling you, it's no longer a tool. It's a tether. Today we cut the tether. So we are coming to the end of our time today. If you have stayed with me this far, I want to take a moment to notice how your mind feels right now. Is it a little quieter? Does the world feel a bit less frantic? That is the afterglow of deep work. You have successfully reclaimed 25 minutes of your life from the noise of digital world. You have practiced the discipline of staying still, and that is a victory in itself. Everything we discussed today, from the nostalgia of our childhood focus to the modern theories of cognitive load, is part of a larger journey. Learning Learning isn't a destination, it's a practice. It's a muscle that we have to train every single day. So I will be returning with more topics like this. And if you liked my thought, then please um, try to apply on those things that I have discussed today. And of course, uh, do away with the phone addiction, the enforced phone addiction on us. So that was it.